Welcome everyone in War Eagle. My name is Moira Alsabrook and I serve as an Auburn Clubs Coordinator with the Auburn Alumni Association. And for the next 30 minutes, your host of the 1856 series, the Auburn Alumni Association Speaker Series. We want to thank you for participating. You can enjoy all of our previous shows by visiting aub.ie/1856 series. During our show, we would like you to interact through Facebook. You can ask us questions or leave comments, and we will touch on those during the show. As you can see, we're not just behind a screen today. We are at our very own Auburn University Regional Airport, specifically in the maintenance hangar. Today, I am joined by Dr. James Birdsong, who serves as the Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator for the Auburn Aviation Program, and Maddie Bohannon, a current Auburn student, certified flight instructor, and a member of the Air Race Classic team. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Auburn Aviation Program, the degrees offered at the university, the impacts of the pandemic, as well as some of the exciting initiatives that are going on with this incredible program. It is our hope that everyone watching learns something new, enjoys the entertainment, and grows in their appreciation and value that we have for the Auburn family. So let's go ahead and get started, if that's okay with y'all. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Birdsong to share a little bit about the history of the program and the building that we're in right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having us and coming out here to Auburn Aviation. So Auburn Aviation got started. Really, the roots of it can be traced all the way back to the Wright brothers, who came to Auburn in 1907. Their first flight school was just down the road in Montgomery, Alabama, which is where Maxwell Air Force Base is now. And so they established the roots and the ideas and the faculty, who tend to be curious people about aviation, the growth of the industry. And so in the 1920s, Auburn University started offering aerospace administration courses. And then in the 1930s, with the civilian pilot training program that the federal government funded to train pilots to go serve in World War II, Auburn University bought this airport for $375 in 1939, submitted a grant because that was one of the requirements. You had to own an airport. And Auburn University got in the business of training pilots through the civilian pilot training program. And another little side fact, but Tuskegee, 15 miles down the road, was also part of the Tuskegee Institute was also part of that program. So there's a lot of rich history here. But that's when flight training started, and then it's after the war they kept the program. It's been in the College of Engineering, College of Business, University College, and now in the College of Liberal Arts. So we've had a long history. We celebrated our 75th anniversary back in 2016. So been doing this a long time and getting ready for the second century of flight. So
that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing with the audience.
Absolutely.
And we love the Auburn Aviation Program, and it's just wonderful to see how much growth it's had over the last several years.
It's an amazing program.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there's several degrees offered in programs that students can be a part of. So I'm going to let Maddie share a little bit about the program that you were previously a part of and still get to dip your toes in, and then why you wanted to study flight at Auburn.
Sure. So Auburn Aviation, there's two degrees. There's aviation management and professional flight. Aviation management is more a business side of aviation. So you have airport managers, you have people might go into aircraft sales, you name it. And then professional flight, which was the degree that I majored in, you get all of your certifications and your trainings to be a professional pilot. And my goal is to work for either airlines or the business aviation industry. So when I graduated, I had my commercial pilot certificate and all my ratings that would prepare me to go into the industry. So right now I work as a flight instructor, so I'm able to teach the students that are currently in the program. So that's really neat because I feel like I'm able to give back to the program and share that interest and that love with the next generation of pilots. And I chose aviation because my parents both worked for the airlines, and they put me on my first commercial flight when I was only 3 weeks old. So we traveled a lot, and I feel lucky to have been able to say that I've grown up in airports and airplanes, and I've just always had a really big interest and natural curiosity. I'd always quiz my dad about the things that were happening when we were on these trips. And so naturally that led me to start looking into aviation programs. And now I'm here 5 years later, and I'm excited to see everything that my degree in aviation leads me to.
Awesome. That's so great. Thank you for sharing that with everyone, Maddie. And I saw a comment come in, and so from Harold Stelwag says, War Eagle, his son Tyler was a graduate of the program in 2014.
Okay, awesome.
So that name maybe sounds familiar to y'all. Okay, James, tell us a little bit about the impacts of the pandemic. I know in the last 18 months it's really shifted some of the flight industry, maybe both here at the university but also commercially.
It has, yes, definitely. Aviation is certainly subject to things beyond the scope of aviation's control, so pandemics being one of them. So right away in March 2020, bookings at airlines started to drop rapidly, and really for about 2 months there, here at the airport, there wasn't much traffic. We did not fly in the flight program, and the corporate traffic that comes in here kind of dried up pretty quickly for about the two months during the shutdown. We started flying back here again in June with the students. The aviation industry as a whole has started to come back, probably starting back around Thanksgiving, December time frames, and this summer there's been actually record numbers of travelers for some airlines and some airports, some cities, and so it's definitely kind of, it's not an uneven finish to the pandemic per se, and so it's kind of subject to domestic pockets of the country that may be going through breakouts versus others that might not.
Sure.
But domestically, the entire system has more or less got back to where it was to a degree. The international piece of the industry is still, it's hard to travel internationally at some places, again, just based on different rules in terms of how the ability to move through airports and move into other countries and stuff. And so that's definitely, has an impact still on the international side. I've traveled recently, about 3 or 4 different times on airplanes, and it's been packed every time. And so people are getting back to it. So an interesting kind of side effect of all this too was when a lot of folks early on didn't want to fly the airlines, people that still needed to travel, you kind of saw a bump in corporate aviation for a bit. And so that's helped that side of the industry. And so this is a very resilient industry. It's been through a lot over the years, and it'll get past it, and it's already starting to show that that's happening. So people want to travel, and it's a lot easier to travel on an airplane than a car, having gone to California last weekend. So
yes.
So
definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that context.
Absolutely.
I know many of our folks watching probably have gotten on a flight maybe within the last year or so, and it's starting to look a little bit more packed, and of course still following safety protocols,
Sure,
but
absolutely.
it's changed the industry of flight. So I had some statistics shared with me when I was preparing for this, and one of them being that there are 6% of women in the flight industry. So out of all of those who work in flight, only 6% are women. And Maddie had shared with me that at Auburn, 13% of the students in aviation are women. So that's almost double, if not more than double, the national average. And one of the organizations that celebrates women in flight is something that you're a part of. And so I want you to tell the audience a little bit about the Air Race Classic.
Sure. So the Air Race Classic is a national event, and Amelia Earhart actually started it with 99 of her friends. And the way it works, it's evolved to where it's about a 3-day race, and over the span of 2,400 miles, and teams from all over, they all fly the same route, and they fly with you, and they find out the time that you should go. So you're trying to beat your time. And because of COVID, that wasn't able to happen, so we had a one-day derby where you and your teammate got to make your own route and fly it, and you would predict your time, send in your times ahead of time, and you would try to get as close to that time as possible. And so the Aviation Center chooses who gets to participate in the Air Race Classic, and we've always had at least one team in the race. Last year we were going to do 2 teams because of donations from alumni, and like I said, unfortunately that got canceled. But this year we were able to send 3 teams. So we had 2 teams with people that have raced before in the traditional way, and then my teammate and I, it was our first time participating in the Air Race Classic. So it's a really neat thing to get to share not only with your classmates, but also it's a great way to meet other women in the industry, and you have your racers that are other collegiate racers, but you also have racers who have been participating 20 plus years. So it's a nice way to get together and celebrate each other's victories and accomplishments and just have a good camaraderie between everyone in the industry.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like a wonderful event to be a part of. And I'm curious now, how did Auburn end up? Did you guys have success?
We did. So we had two teams place in the top 20. And we had all teams, I want to say, in the top 60 or 70, which was nice.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. So something that we wanted to ask you as well is that there are many alumni and friends watching, and so they may be curious, how can we get involved with the Auburn Aviation program? And so, James, I'm going to kick that question over to you. How can alumni stay connected?
So you can follow us obviously on social media and all those ways. We do have a lot of outreach events, and so we have business aviation. So we have about 4,000 alums in the aviation program in and of itself, and so dating many years, but those alums are extremely passionate, and they open up channels for networking, outreach opportunities, and things like that to help current students and young graduates and recent graduates basically help the next generation behind them. So, that can look like, again, serving as guest speakers, mentors. We've had folks that obviously, again, like Maddie mentioned, have helped fund the Air Race Classic teams and things like that. And so there's a lot of ways to get involved. If you live here in the local area, we do have a lot of outreach events like Girls in Aviation Day in the fall. We do summer camps in the summertime. We have Letters with Aubie at Christmas time. We have a lot of events. We keep a pretty full calendar, so tons of opportunities. Just reach out to us, and we can definitely get you plugged in. So,
wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. And then also, just trying to stay connected to our comments and questions on Facebook, just to encourage you to bring them forward if there's anything that our audience is curious about. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, there may be some parents of the program also tuning in, or some prospective students. And so I know you started the program 5 years ago. What encouragement or words of wisdom would you share with maybe some of those parents or prospective students that would be interested in attending the program?
I would say get involved, and if you are a student in the program, get involved from day one. But also there's lots of ways to get involved before you're in the program as well. Whether you're debating if this is for you, there's lots of organizations that can help show you different aspects of aviation. There's lots of organizations also that provide scholarships, which is a huge help, and a lot of scholarships go without any applicants. So definitely apply to these scholarships. Women in Aviation is a great organization, gives out scholarships. NBAA, National Business Aviation Association, offers scholarships, and so does Women in Corporate Aviation. So there's all of these different international, national organizations, and then also when you come to Auburn, get involved, because the industry is so small and you see these same people all throughout your time. And like all of these notable alumni in the industry that want to help, being involved in an organization is a great way to meet those alumni that will help you, see different parts of the industry that you never even knew were available to a student.
Definitely. Great encouragement for those parents and students that are currently a part of the program, but also may be interested in the future. So we are 2 days away from game day, and that is exciting energy for the Auburn family. Everybody has missed being on the planes, and the university airport has a big role around football and athletics in general. And so talk to the audience, James, a little bit about what game day will look like at the airport.
So game day at the airport, it kind of, it'll start out maybe kind of quiet, and then as the season ramps up, it really, it serves as a barometer to the size of the game, I guess, in terms of, but we do start having a lot of traffic out here, typically Thursday, Fridays before game days. You'll see a lot of folks fly in. A lot of corporate aviation folks will come in, general aviation, Gets very exciting. I've been here working at the airport and seen about 260 aircraft fly in for the Georgia and Alabama game several years ago. So we're excited to get back to that. And if you're an aviation geek and really want to see something cool, come here after the game at 10:30 at night, and there'll just be airplane after airplane lined up to take off. And they can get so busy they'll bring in a tower in here sometimes, the FAA. And so, but you'll literally see maybe 100 airplanes take off, you know, within the span of an hour and a half or something. So it can get really crazy busy around here at times. So it's fun. Us aviation people love it.
That's awesome. That sounds like lots of fun. Well, thank you for answering that question. We've had a few more comments and questions come in. Arthur Rosen said that he was the financial supporter of the Air Race Classic the last several years and was a class of 70 graduate. Great to hear from you, Arthur. Some other questions came in, one for you, Maddie. It says, what do you enjoy most about flying and being a flight instructor?
I think that flying is just one of the most freeing things that you can do. You know, it's just really gives you a sense of appreciation for things that you wouldn't get to see on the ground, beautiful views, and you get to meet a lot of great people in the aviation industry. And as far as being an instructor goes, I just love being able to serve mainly as a cheerleader. You know, there's all of these resources out there for students, and your instructor does help, you know, give you the information and teach you things, but also just being able to be someone's supporter and cheerleader along their way, and having more of the mentorship side of the instruction is my personal favorite part. And just getting to know more people in the industry and getting to know their stories is my favorite thing.
Awesome. That's great. I've had the opportunity to speak to James and Maddie for several minutes before the show, and they're just a wealth of knowledge and experience, and the way that you talk about the program makes me wish I was a little bit more successful with my past flight experiences.
We can help you.
Wonderful. Okay, there's one more question that we'll take, and then we'll get to wrap up this show. This came in. It says, where do you see the program going and growing in the next 5 to 10 years? And so I'll let you share from your perspective, and then I'll let you talk a little bit about yours too.
Well, so we have grown quite a bit. We have about 600 students now. About 2/3 of those are on the flight side of the program, and 1/3 are on the management side. The aviation management side is easier to grow because less infrastructure is required in terms of airport tower and all those kind of things. But we are starting to have conversations with the FAA about, again, getting an airport tower or air traffic control tower in here permanently, which would allow us to grow the flight side of the program again. But we're also not all about just trying to be as big as possible, because there's some very big collegiate aviation programs out there. We're not necessarily wanting to be the biggest, we want to be the best. And so again, the quality of students that comes out of Auburn University, I mean, it's awesome to see them on the airplane, and I always joke with the students, my whole goal is just to be able to relax when I see you in the cockpit, you know, but they do very well. They get out there, and we want to see more and more of that. And again, have that Auburn brand be literally around the world, just have it out there more. And you know, and I think collegiate aviation is going to play a larger part in the industry moving forward too, because of the quality of pilots that come through these types of programs, and the military is actually producing fewer pilots these days. So there's a lot of opportunities for this program to continue to grow, and we'll keep working to make it better and better every day. So.
Thank you. And feel free to share from your perspective too.
So when I came into the program 5 years ago, I was the first year to have doubled the program, and since then, every year the program's doubled since. So there were about 120 people flying when I came in. Now we have about 400, 500 students flying. So being able to see that growth and be a part of that growth is really encouraging, and also I think that it's just going to continue to go up from here. And you know, there's a big pilot shortage in the industry like we talked about, so I think that's gonna fuel a lot of people who may otherwise wouldn't have pursued aviation as a career, maybe just as a hobby or a passion. I think that'll serve a big push into pursuing that career. I know certainly that was kind of the case for me coming into the industry. And also, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a lot more women come into the industry. The percentage has only increased maybe by 2% in the last 10 years, which is crazy, but there's a lot more exposure out there and a lot more programs that encourage people who may not otherwise have been able to even know that aviation was an option for them. A lot more programs that are encouraging, minorities and people otherwise.
Sure. Well, that's great.
And all this growth, again, through the generous support of the state, the university, private donors, industry donors, has helped support all the growth that we've seen, and that's been a huge part. And just one real quick thing too, half of the U.S. airline pilots will be retiring in the next 15 years, which is a huge opportunity for young folks to come into this industry. So we're extremely excited about the future.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. I was speaking with Daphne, who serves on staff with the program, and she said the Delta building was finished being built in 2018, and before it was even finished, it was already full and at capacity. And so I think that just speaks to the growth that's been had at Auburn. And what a sales pitch. Half of the pilots are going to retire in the next 15 years.
Age 65, you have to retire, so it's not an option.
It's an encouragement for everyone to consider the flight programs that are offered here. So thank you both. One final comment that is from Shannon Short. She said that she is looking forward to the Business Aviation Days this year. And so lots of folks have been tuning in today, and yes, we're very excited for their involvement in the show. I just wanted to thank you both personally for being a part of today's show. It was wonderful to get to know you beforehand and then to have our audience take a sneak peek into the program and your roles with it. Auburn is so proud to call this place part of the university, and just excited to know what's to come, and it makes me want to be a part of your events and programs too, and I know the audience feels the same way, so thank you so much.
Everybody's always welcome.
Yeah.
Very much appreciate you coming out.
Of course. And we're going to close with an encouragement to our alumni and friends to check out The Huddle this year. Every home football game is an opportunity for the Auburn family to join us at the Auburn Alumni Center. So home games, the Alumni Center will be open 3 hours prior to kickoff, and you can come in and cool off in the air conditioning, meet up with family and friends, utilize our restroom services, and head over to the game together. For more information on The Huddle, you can visit aub.ie/thehuddle. We look forward to seeing everyone this weekend and throughout the fall. Thank you so much for tuning in, and War Eagle.